Everybody, we have a great show for you today. Joining us is special guest Jonathan Tripp, a live stream host and broadcaster, and we're going to be talking all about Instagram and why it matters. We're also going to dive in deep into the specifics on how to bring in live comments onto your screen in your live streams, so your viewers, no matter what platform they're watching on, can read the comments. So you no longer have to worry about people being left out of the conversation if they're on the wrong platform. And by way of example, this show is coming at you live on Facebook and Periscope. So if you do have comments, please share them. For our purposes, though, if you want your comment to appear on the screen, you'll need to tweet at us using the hashtag WirecastLive. All right, so we look forward to doing a great show with you today. Buckle your seatbelts because here we go. This is Wirecast Live. Welcome to Wirecast Live. It is Thursday, January 19th, and we are coming at you live from California. Before we bring on our live guest for this episode and dive deep into the topic and tutorials for today, let's cover some of the upcoming live news and announcements. So the first thing you want to know is that coming up next week, for those of you who use Mac in the audience, or you Mac lovers out there, we have an awesome webinar for you coming up on Wednesday, January 25th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. It is a deep dive into ScreenFlow 6. It's going to be hosted by my good friend Lucas Bischofberger, and now the new ScreenFlow evangelist. So I'm very excited for Lucas. We're already setting attendance records with that, or registration records with that webinar. So definitely sign up. It's going to be a really good one. I think if you do go, you and Lucas are going to have a great time, and it's going to be some pretty spectacular content. You'll learn a lot. So the next up, we're going to be at some trade shows. I will be out of town next week. There will not be an official live Wirecast Live show because I will be in Orlando, Florida for the Future of Education in Technology and Technology Conference at the Orange County Convention Center. And so if I do get a chance to stream, I'm going to be using just an informal means. I'll probably do some sort of live stream if I can get some good reception on my phone or something, just to say hi and hang out a little bit. So look for that, but no official show. And I can't promise that it's going to be at 2:30 p.m. Pacific time, although I will do my best. So we'll see what happens and how the reception is out there. But if you do happen to be in the Florida area next week, definitely stop by and visit us at booth 845 at FETC 2017. I'd love to see you there. For all of you gamers and streamers, Lucas is going to be hopping onto a plane right after his webinar in the morning to fly out to the PAX South Conference in lovely San Antonio, Texas. That conference is going to be in January 27th to 29th, and we'll be at booth 10603. 10603. And I know Lucas and the team would love to see you out there if you happen to be in Texas or San Antonio. Definitely stop by. There's some really cool stuff going on with our game streaming software game show, and we hope to see you at that show. All right, you guys, I think that covers all the upcoming news and announcements. It's definitely time to bring on our special guest for today, Jonathan Tripp. Jonathan Tripp is a live streaming and vlogging, I wouldn't say we want to avoid the term expert, but definitely he has a lot of experience. He knows what he's talking about, and we're going to be talking all about Instagram and why it matters. So Instagram is not one of those social media sites that I typically, or we focus on in the show, because it just hasn't historically been a live streaming media platform. So that may be changing. It's beginning to change a little bit. Jonathan is here to give us the latest information on Instagram and why it matters. Jonathan, are you still there? Because you were with us in the pre-show.
Yeah, I'm still here. This is great.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. That's a great intro.
I'm happy to have you here. I'm getting better every week at this. So, so Jonathan, why don't you just real quick, standard here, tell us who you are. For those of you who might be watching and don't know Jonathan, how would you describe Jonathan Tripp?
Well, it's actually a lot simpler than most people think. But basically, it's this. Like I'm a husband. I'm a dad. I'm an avid coffee drinker. I don't know if you guys can't tell. I drink coffee. I love it. I love to make it. But actually, even more than that, I love to talk about social media. I love to help businesses and brands use social media in different but really specific ways. And I really, even more than that, I actually love to live stream. I've been live streaming for a bit, whether it's been on Periscope or Blab or Huzzah. I mean, I've done quite a few of them now, but now I've kind of slimmed back down to maybe a couple interviews a week and a weekly show on Fridays.
Nice. So taking it easy a little bit, huh?
Well, I got to make room for other things. I mean, I can't literally live stream all the time, although I'm sure some people would like me to. It's just I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm one of those guys. I don't live stream every minutia of my life. I don't do that.
And some of us
Probably for
appreciate
everybody
that.
else.
Just so you know,
Yeah,
some of us appreciate. I mean, I am a fan, but there is such a thing as too much of a good thing, right?
that's it's too much information, right?
TMI. I have a few relatives that I have to say that to. So let's, the name of your consultancy and kind of what you do is how to make social work for you. How do people make social work for them? What do you
One,
advise?
it's more of a tagline in the way that I approach that. Make social work for you, because I think a lot of people either feel that it's Mount Everest, that they could never get it, it's too complicated and those sorts of things, or that it's turnkey, which means that anything that I do, I just have to. It's like post it, and everybody will love everything you do, and that all you have to do is just make one Instagram post or one tweet, and then they get crushed and defeated when nobody responds.
When
And
nobody
so I
cares.
love to work with those people.
Yeah, like I've heard that this Twitter thing's kind of important to my business. What do you recommend I do?
Right. That's really a lot where there's really great business minds out there. They've got great products, they've got great services, but this integrating social media, that's not the same thing. That's not the same thing as having a really well structured business and understanding who your customers are. That's not the same thing as social media or using social media to reach your customers. It's different. It's a different animal. But I mean, you have a lot of the same tools and some of the same structures are the same, but the actual execution, this is the forefront of where business is. I think that's what I think, and I think the leading edge within that is live streaming.
Yeah, so I've talked to a lot of marketers, consultants, internet marketers on the show, and everybody has a bit of a unique take, but there's definitely some common themes. And one of the ones that I see is definitely that if you're not live streaming, you probably should be as a business or a brand. Would you agree with that? Or maybe it's not for everybody?
I don't think every business needs to be live streaming. I can just say I can put it like that. What was that? We were talking on a video podcast the other day, and somebody asked that question: is like, should everybody? And you know what? Just right off the top of my head, I said, probably waste disposal companies. I don't think they really need to major in live streaming. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. It's just not something that would hit me. But I'm sure there are businesses out there that really don't do well. High security things. They don't need to be live streaming. Keep your security. It's
Right,
okay.
right.
We just it's all right.
No, that's a very good point. That it may not be a fit for everybody, but for those people that are, and I think that a lot of established companies, that any company more than a couple years old, is definitely coming into the social media space and wondering, all right, I've got a viable business model. I've kind of set up how I make my sales and where my funnels are and everything, but I just don't quite get why I should be tweeting every day, or why should I be live streaming, or and so forth, or how to fit all that activity into my classic, business structure. So what do you kind of console people or your clients to do if they're coming into this really, and not wanting to get crushed, as you say?
Sure. I ask one question, and this really divides everything for how I approach. It's, do you already know who your audience is or are? Is this an established service, is an established business? Do you have an audience that you are actually specifically trying to reach that you know that you already do? And this could be through an email list, it could be through Twitter followers, it could be through Facebook, whatever the platform is, talking in the social, more in the social realm. That's the one side. Because if you say yes, then perfect. Now we already know who we're going to be trying to reach. The second answer could be no, you know what? We don't. We don't have an established audience. We need to figure out who they are, or we know who they are and we just need to have a plan of execution to reach them. Again, totally different approaches to getting your message out. So that's really kind of like the first why in the fork in the road that I think needs to be answered. Because if you don't know who your audience is, or if you don't have one, that's a very different approach than already talking to an audience, a captive audience, people that already love and like watch like Wirecast Live. Mm-hmm. You have an audience and you know the kind of content they like to see. So you're not trying to reach and hope that they maybe one day they might tune in. No, you have an audience that works. But however, maybe let's say you're trying to reach into another audience with your with your product or with your product line. Then you're going to come at it from a different approach, trying to get new audience or viewing members. So it's a different. That's the first question. Way I handle that.
And is the next question okay? So we've either identified a target audience, or we're working through that first. Now we've identified our target audience. Now do we select the platform that's right for them? Is that kind of where you go next? Like, where do we start trying to reach them?
That's a really good way, Andrew. I'm glad to hear somebody else say that, because I think that's a really important aspect of it, where if you know who your audience is, then you know, and you should be knowing what platform you're on and what platform they're going to be tuning in, because an Instagram audience is demographically probably going to be very different than your Facebook demographic, even though they're pretty much, they're owned by the same company. Different users, different platforms. We didn't even talk about live streaming to Twitch as a social platform, which it kind of is, depending on how you look at it. Mm-hmm. But the whole point really is that's a very different demographic than the majority of the Facebook users that we would commonly think to use and market using Facebook.
Right. And then because I like to think of it kind of in terms of golf terms, right? Like for each shot, you usually have to select a different club, right? You're not going to use the same tool for each task. And I think that the social platforms, there's a lot of crossover and they have a lot of similarities. And there are, of course, the same demographic can be found on all the platforms to some extent, but certainly not to equal extents. And so you've got to kind of think of each platform as a tool, and it's best for reaching or distributing this type of content and reaching these types of people in these types of ways. So, I think that if you just try to do it all, you get, first of all, overwhelmed. And then secondly, you underwhelm your audience and you fail to reach them effectively or target them appropriately.
I like to put it like this: if you aim for everybody, you hit nobody.
There you go.
That's I hear you try to market to everybody. You're not going to really reach very many people, because people don't live in the averages. I don't know if you know that. I mean, I firmly believe that. I think if you try to find the most common time to post your Instagram or your Twitter or anything, you may hit just by, it's like throwing something out there, hoping maybe it'll hit something, as opposed to knowing when your customers are, hey, you know what? My customer, they always check their messages by 9 a.m. So I better have most of my content out by 9 a.m. Mm-hmm. As opposed to just saying, well, 12 o'clock really is about that. It's about that midday. Most people are up by then. And no, don't buy into playing by the law of averages. Be really specific. Don't be afraid to be specific and really custom content. I don't know if you know this about me. I like custom created content. That's a mouthful to say. I really like that. I think that's far more effective than just trying to make something that might happen to possibly reach everybody.
Right.
Don't do that stuff.
Yeah. That's a good point. Like, it sounds like you're very deliberate in your method and approach, and you don't try to overwhelm yourself or your clients. You pick some very, achievable goals, and then kind of create a plan to meet them. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I would say that to be very accurate because, mind you, like I don't think you can ROI every single action you take. I think you're spending more time trying to measure it, but knowing a plan, having knowing your goals, having a plan, and having the steps to execute it. I mean, for me, Instagram's a big one. I mean, I really like Instagram, so I make sure that every day I have my content that I've thought out ahead, that I've made the posts for. I know when I want to post them, and I make sure I put them out there, and so it gives me a chance to interact with anybody that's direct messaging me or following me or something like that, or they reply to the post. I keep my Instagram story going. We talked about, like, I don't live stream the minutia of my day. I
Right.
really don't. I try to take snippets, and I make a sometimes it's video, sometimes it's pictures. But I keep that up. But everything that I do, it's pointing everybody, pointing an audience, those that want to watch or want to learn about what I'm doing and things. It's all pointed to that end. I don't haphazardly just like take 800 pictures in the day and post one, and maybe somebody will like one of them, and maybe one of them I might get business out of. I mean, when I say it like that, doesn't it sound weird?
Yeah,
It
it
doesn't
does.
sound normal. That
It sounds
doesn't
like you're running around crazy. And I think,
right.
yeah, and
But
that
a
just
lot
comes
of
from
people have
overwhelm.
that kind of social strategy.
Yeah. No, I think anyone who's doing this for the first time is definitely guilty of that, and you learn to start focusing after a while. I think just so you don't kill yourself, like you start to begin to by default start to be like, okay, let's be a little more thoughtful in what we're doing right now because it's too crazy. We're not gonna make it to next week if we keep doing this. So, but I think I could see the advantages of starting out kind of not even having to learn that lesson from the get-go, right? You just begin with a plan in mind before you start. As they say, it's always good to have a plan. Like failure to plan is no plan. Is not a plan, basically. So Jonathan, I'm glad also that you brought up Instagram because I think for a lot of this demographic, like I said, it's not something the Wirecast. It's not my target audience right now. I'm not targeting people on Instagram. We're not really talking to them. We may, if Instagram decides to start bringing in more live streaming and stuff like that, and open it up to third parties or as an API. But I think it's one that my audience is curious about. What is important about Instagram? Why do you choose it as one of the mediums that you focus on?
That's a really good question because you're right. As someone who live streams as much as I do, Instagram doesn't do live stream that well yet, but they just released it, and much like a lot of the other, I mean, I remember when Periscope, it was just on the phone and it was very glitchy and you couldn't broadcast it using anything else. And since then they've opened up the API, and so now you can use a great product like Wirecast, and you can use Wirecast to broadcast your content, whether it's slides or video. You can conference in people. I know later on you're going to be talking about bringing in your social, some of the social media comments, which is it's a fantastic way to bring in outside. But with Instagram specifically, it is a little bit different. But I will say this though, a lot of people feel that what Instagram is doing is really just is trying to steal the market away from another company called Snapchat. And maybe you've heard of it. Maybe they don't actually call it Snapchat anymore, but it's Snapchat. And I think here's this to me is one of the reasons why I use Instagram. It already has like 600 million monthly users worldwide. That's pretty impressive. They've jumped to between 100 and 150 million monthly viewers for just the stories, which is what the new that's like a new feature that they've rolled out here in the last several months. It's really caught on. I mean, these are some big numbers that have gotten a lot of attention from viewers. And it's not just like Snapchat and a lot of Instagram people like, well, it's just for kids and teens. Well, I hate to say that. No, you're wrong. If you think it's just for teens, then you're really missing out. I like Instagram because it's got the platform, it's got the support and stability, and I can also run it as a way to improve my business. I can run ads through it as I see fit. And so to me, that makes perfect sense. And I actually prefer it over Snapchat.
Is it pretty straightforward to buy or target ads on Instagram? Are you using your phone to do that? Do you have to use the app, or do you actually can do that on the computer and do it that way?
You can't, it is, okay. So in order to be able to do that, you have to have an Instagram business account, and you do need to run it through and connect it with a Facebook page. And that's how you're able to, connect it with, with the ad platform through Facebook, because
Got it.
Instagram's owned by Facebook. So you're able to make the content, you're able to put it through, and you're able to run it through, and you can, it really does make it very easy to be able to be able to run those ads, and run them very effectively and cheap. And that's one of the big things, that you don't have to drop six figures in order to be able to have an effective Instagram ad set. That's a big drawback for Snapchat. It takes a lot of money, and it's big money to be able to do that.
Yeah. Do you like have you had a lot of success finding clients already on Instagram? Do you have some of your clients found you through your Instagram
Oh yeah.
ads?
Now it's so you say I say clients, I say people that I want to interview, people that have joined our Facebook group, people, and that's it's become one of the best outreach tools. I'll say maybe a better way. It's one of my best broadcast tools
Mm,
to let people know more about me.
mm,
And it's taken me. I mean, I've been really taking Instagram a lot more serious, probably for the last 8 or 9 months.
got it.
Before that, it was my personal account. I kind of, I throw up some pics, but it was mine. It was just mine. And I said, you know what? Facebook is really investing, and they're really doing some things with Instagram. And when they opened it up for business accounts, they added analytics, in-app analytics, so I
Mm.
could just see it on the go. I can literally see analytics on the fly. That was it. I was like, I'm sold. This is the platform that I really want to concentrate on.
Interesting. So, one of the things that I think Periscope, and for you Periscope viewers out there, that traditionally Twitter, Periscope, they were just a great discovery platform. So, uh, and we actually have a comment coming in on Periscope. I recently converted my business to the in-app because of the in-app analytics are so great. So thanks for commenting there on the Periscope feed. But basically, one of the things that uh, I think that Twitter typically had the sort of the lock on was finding new people. It was kind of easier to broadcast to the world. People could tweet out whatever you tweeted out, and follow you on Periscope. So it seemed like you get more random stop-ins, cast a wider net. Often they wouldn't stay long, but at least you knew you were constantly reaching people you'd probably never reached before. Do you find, whereas in Facebook, unless you're buying ads and so forth, you don't necessarily have a lot of native discovery unless your network is sharing out your content, and then you got to get to a friend of a friend or a friend of a friend of a friend, and then you're beginning to expand your reach maybe that way. Do you think that Instagram is pretty strong when it comes to sort of the discovery possibilities for content?
Absolutely, hands down. This is, if you haven't already been in Instagram and you're looking to use it, this is the time to do it. I only think from now on that the costs, as a business, to either advertise or to promote your products and services, I think that cost is going to at least double to triple in the next year or so, or if not by the end of 2017.
Hmm.
Right now, what's amazing about Instagram is that you have organic reach. You have organic reach even if you don't have a ton of followers. And I mean, like, a ton of followers. I mean, I don't even consider myself to have a lot of followers. I mean, a lot of followers to me is like 50,000 and up.
Hmm.
That's a really good base. That's the influencer level to me.
Right.
Okay. Now, in by the same stretch, that I know people that, like, hey, I have an Instagram account. They have 200 people that follow them, and half of them are friends of a friend, and they see them at the softball club on the weekends or whatever. They're like, hey, I have an Instagram account, right? And but what separates out, like, a Twitter and for an Instagram's built. It's actually built to be discovered, and it's because of hashtags. You can use none or as many as you want. Well, I mean, as many up to 30, but you can use those. And I'm telling you right now, through the power of proper hashtag use, you can really grow a super niche following of people that love your content
That's
or
cool.
hate it, maybe, if that's what you're going for. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think Instagram definitely has love it or hate it content on it. You can probably find what's right for you and stuff that's
Hmm.
absolutely what you the last thing you would want to see on your feed. So with Instagram, I read a couple interesting articles recently about Instagram. One of them was sort of like an undercover influencer, right? It was like a reporter, and he had said, how I became an Instagram influencer for 2 months or whatever. And he just kind of walked through the process of getting followers, building up his following, trying to get to influencer level from like nothing. And he learned so many lessons along the way, like how to, to do like fashion photo shoots, how to look super casual, but at the same time putting all this work. He had to like hire, he said the people he was talking with recommended hiring photographers, professional photographers to get the shots. I mean, there's so much work that goes into this cultivated casual thing, and he said it was working. I mean, by the end of it, he was getting a steady flow of new follows or likes or whatever. And so, are you finding that just how do you balance the sort of amount of reward to effort now? Obviously, I think you're right. When a platform is just launching, organic reach is going to be bigger, and over time you'll see that shrink unless you decide to pay. I think Facebook has come that way. They've done some sort of informal studies, not Facebook, but third parties, and they've looked at how over time organic reach has slowly gone down as Facebook's gotten larger, bigger, emphasized advertising a little more. Do you think that the same thing with Instagram? Are you already beginning to see the same trend? And you said it's maybe a year before you really see it to skyrocket.
What I mean is that saying by the year or a year from now, or by the end of 2017, I wouldn't be surprised that in order to get the kind of reach that you want or once saw, that it's going to take paid advertisement to do that, which is not a bad thing in and of itself. I'll say like this, because if I knew that I could put out content and that it would specifically reach the kind of people that I think are interested, rather than a more organic approach, which does take longer, it takes a lot more effort, and it's really hit or miss. Like, you think ads are hit or miss, organic reach is really hit or miss. But I don't want to say that organic reach is dead now. It's not. I still think it's very active, but I think that it takes a lot more effort than it used to, because people, your IG game has to be higher. You can't, like you said, I mean, it was you were saying that one reporter saying, we have to hire photographers and do this and editors and plan shoots. I mean, I don't think everybody needs to get that way. I think you find the niche of what kind of photos people like, and match that with your hashtag set, match that to what you think that your audience is going to be watching and looking out for. I'm telling you, when you align those things, it's a home run. I mean, because you're doing exactly, and you're using Instagram exactly the way that it's meant. You're not trying to break the system. You're actually using the app the right way. And I think Facebook loves it, and Instagram loves it, and so they want to reward you with good audience reach and insights and things like that.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. And the hashtag piece of it sounds, really important, because they can't find you unless you've properly labeled your content, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's worth spending the time to do that. I just, any way you cut it, you can copy and paste, you can guesswork, but I think it's worth spending the time trying to find the hashtag set, or the hashtags that are going to work, and slowly implement them, methodically implement them, so what works and what doesn't. And that takes time, and it takes a little bit of skill. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. That's hard work sometimes. That's the grind. When people say you got to grind it, that's it. That's the grind right there.
Have you ever coined a hashtag?
Mugshot is one that I really like. That's mugshot. That's why.
Nice.
What we do.
Wait, so did you literally, as far as you know, you were one of the first people to use that hashtag, or are you just started to really make it your own?
I use it a lot. I won't want to say I own it. I'm not going to go that far. I mean, so I've used Mugshot. I've used Blab Nation when Blab was around. We had a Facebook group that was called Blab Nation, and we've since changed it to another name. And but even then, even that with my show J Tripp Live, that's the hashtag for it, because nobody wants to spell out Jonathan Tripp. I get tired of spelling out my own name. So I just shortened it to JTrip Live, and now that might actually be easier for people to remember. But
Got it.
again, it's hashtag. It's not too long. You can identify it. It's easy to pronounce. You can kind of, oh, J, and then you see the word trip, and everybody knows we're live. That's the sort of thing. I mean, that's how you construct, that's how you construct your hashtags. You figure it out. So
Yeah, and it's sort of the moving target of a good hashtag is an interesting one, because sometimes you'll just be like, you'll post something and you just realize, well, the appropriate hashtag doesn't really exist yet. Like, I have to make it, and then nobody knows about it, but I need to now spread that and try to keep posting more content that relates to that hashtag to sort of get people sort of aware, and they go, oh, I have some content that matches up with that hashtag. That's very descriptive of what I'm doing. And then eventually you can maybe build a little bit of a snowball.
hmm
So
I think
go
I
ahead.
think hashtags are like that, Andrew. I think you got it right on, man. Find out what works, make sure it keeps working, change it if it doesn't. It's that easy. We don't need to make it we don't need to make it too complicated.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, I often think about the hashtags just that we're using just for people to tweet in. And by the way, if speaking of hashtags, if you have a question for Jonathan, you'd like us to throw it up on the screen here, please tweet hashtag WirecastLive. We're doing a filter right now. I'm actually going to show you that in the tutorial on how we're doing that. But if you do have a question, please, love to see those tweets. Bring them in, and you're welcome to ask a question on air. Otherwise, of course, you can always leave your comments on Periscope or Facebook. Just can't 100% guarantee that we will get it, obviously get it on screen or have time to address it in the moment. So Jonathan, I think the last sort of question, I'd like to maybe wrap up the interview and then move on to our hands-on demo part. But where can people find more information about you? Obviously they can find you on Instagram at what?
It's at John Tripp, JonTripp.
John
That's
Tripp.
easy. You can always search for it, and I try to keep all my profile pictures the same, so at least you'll be able to have a good fighting chance at finding that. But that's my Instagram.
Got it.
I use two domain names. It was my fault. I didn't tell you this. I have a .com,
Okay.
which takes you to my webpage, and that just
Yeah, we have
kind
it
of
on the
gets you
screen here.
Yeah, and that's the nitty gritty. The one I didn't tell you about, and this is actually the one I use for my live streaming. It's jonathantripp.live, and that takes you to pretty much anywhere that I'm live streaming in the moment that it's my show, so I didn't I did drop this link in there. But for when I do my Friday shows, if I'm doing if I'm hosting a show, or if I'm doing things like this, I put it on that website. So Jonathan Tripp Live, jonathantripp.live is where you can find me. I really love the .live.
Nice.
So
Yeah, the domain name, that's a perfect place to start posting live content. So just real quick, how is it that you post so let's talk real quick about your method for that. Are you embedding a YouTube video? Are you streaming to a private RTMP server? What do you do to bring your stuff online there?
Usually I use a social streaming, and here's the reason why. Is because most of everybody that I want to connect with is already connected via a social platform. So it could be Twitter with Periscope, it could be YouTube, it could be Facebook, it could be Twitch. Wherever it allows me to post using that a custom feed like that. But as long as I'm able to grab an embedded link, I run it through through a capture page. And I really don't use it as primarily as a capture page as much as a place that I can put in any feed that I'm in. I can put it into that page. So, jonathantripp.live will almost always have the latest live feed that I'm doing. It doesn't matter what platform I'm on.
Nice. So we threw it up on the screen there for you. Thanks, guys,
awesome.
in the studio. So if you are curious about where you can find more about Jonathan, catch him at one of those. You're live every Friday. What time?
Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern time.
10 a.m. Eastern time. So tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern, why don't you swing by Jonathan Tripp Live and check out what you're doing? Are you have any specific topics you're going to cover tomorrow?
We are going to be talking about, do social metrics really matter? So
this is a good question.
Do likes really matter, man? Do reshares, do they really matter? I don't know. You got to tune in tomorrow to find
Tomorrow
out.
to find out on Jonathan Tripp Live. So, Jonathan, it's been a great pleasure having you. I'd love to have you back on the show. There's actually a ton more questions I want to ask you, but I think we're out for today. So, thanks so much for joining us from East Coast time. You're in Virginia, right?
That's right. Thank you, Andrews. Thank you so much. And all the whole Telestream Wirecast Live team. You guys have a production, and this is super impressive. Thank you so much for having me on as a guest.
It
This
is
has
a
really been,
moving
this is
ship.
kind of like one of those checklist things. I was able to be on their show. That's really cool.
Well, we were happy to have you, and I'd love to bring you back and talk a little bit more about Wirecast, how you're using it, and maybe you can share some power tips as well. So,
Be my honor, Andrew. Thank you.
thanks. You have a good evening.
All right. Take care.
So that, folks, is Jonathan Tripp. He is great. It was a real pleasure to have on the show. Jonathan, thanks again for joining us. I had a real fun time interviewing you. I hope you can get back to your family, have some dessert. They were having dinner shortly before the show here. And we will have him on again at some point later in the year, I'm sure of it. So let's move on to our hands-on demo part of the show. I'm going to dive in deep and show you exactly how to bring in social comments onto your Wirecast projects. So this is the part where we really dive in, we talk about technical stuff, we get our hands dirty, and I show you sort of the ins and outs of the Wirecast software. For those of you who want some power tips, feel free to tweet at me with hashtag WirecastLive. I will take your questions on the air if they're on the screen staring me in the face. There's no way I won't take that question. And then I will try to keep my eye on the other two platforms, Facebook. Leave your comments there. I just want to say hi to Sandy and our VR TV. That's a great name there. And then for those of you who are watching on Periscope, it's been great seeing the hearts and some of the comments there. So thank you guys for tuning in. All right, so let's do this. We're going to go to my desktop here. I have actually an old webinar thing. I can actually just quit that. And then we'll save that real fast. What is the cost to get started for this software? KB Lawson is asking on Periscope. KB, the cost for Wirecast, it is a free download and unlimited trial, but if you want to get the unlocked version, it is $495, and it is, in my opinion, well worth it, but you will need to decide that for your own. That's for yourself. That's why we do provide that trial. And by the way, that trial, you can still use it. You can learn the software. There's tutorials, all that stuff, and there's no time limit on that trial. The only thing is a watermark is going to come on for 30 seconds. So if you time it right, you might be able to do just 30-second broadcasts with it, real short ones, as you get used to the software, and then the Wirecast logo won't come on the screen during your trial version. All right, so here is Wirecast. I'm actually going to open a previous document, so I can start with that. I have one saved here that I kind of created prior to the show. Pull it up here. There it is. I'm not going to save that other document. One of the cool things about Wirecast is that it is a sort of a document-based interface. So you can open multiple Wirecast projects and save them with custom shots, custom things, and do more than one thing at a time in different documents if for some reason you need to. But let's start by just getting started bringing in comments. So what I'm going to start with is I have a couple windows here. I'm going to bring them on screen so you can see, starting with, say, our live stream here. So you can see this is where I'm keeping an eye on the Facebook comments, and I can bring those in. And so the first thing we need to do is we need to screen capture these comments and bring them into the screen. So we're going to start with Facebook, all right? And let's start with Facebook. So screen capture is the first way to bring in comments. And the way you do a screen capture in Wirecast is you start by just adding it as a source. And I can add it on any source here, but let's say we'll bring it in at the top. I'm going to go down to screen capture and click on that. That's going to launch this window up here where I can choose which screen I want to capture. I'm going to choose a window capture, and I'm going to select Google Chrome, and I'm going to choose the Telestream Wirecast window that I have, which is for the Facebook page. So hit OK. And there it is. You can see it's bringing in, it's got a little preview here. It's bringing in the window of the Facebook stream and all the comments there. So that's the first thing. I'm actually going to title this Facebook comments, so I know the name of that source that I'm bringing in, and we're going to hit OK. All right, so that brings in the whole window or Chrome window there. And obviously the thing that I'm most interested in is just the comments. So this is where just a little editing gets us most of the way home. So we're going to start with, up here in the Properties tab, I'm going to just select these shot properties on this layer. And I'm going to crop and sort of fit these to just focus in on the area of the screen that I want. So I'm just going to take this over, all the way over to just the comments there. Boom. And for those of you who've been watching Wirecast Live for a long time, I have shown this before, but it's been a while, so we're covering it again. And I wanted to also cover Periscope comments as well. So we're going to go down, and then we're going to take the right off just a little bit. So now we have our shot. It's a screen capture of the Chrome window, but we're focused just on this comment area. And I've cropped it down. And I can say, for example, pull it in, make it more full screen. It's really up to you how much of the comment window you want to see. For example, if I zoom in here, you'll see that what we have here is not just the comments, which are down below, but we also have the title and description and so forth. So I may just want the actual comment section here. And if this gets longer or shorter, depending on how many comments we have, we don't have that many today on the Facebook stream, so that's fine. But I might want to crop the top down just to focus on literally the comment section itself. And then I can even take off that write a comment off the bottom. So now I can also change the scale of this so people can see, make it much larger. The nice thing about screen capture is it's generally better resolution than, or small areas of the screen generally take up a large area of the screen in, say, a 1080 video application. So there it is. I have my Facebook comments. If I was to go over, I may want to turn off, say, in the Properties tab up here on the left, I can set properties, and one of them is Show Cursor. So that way if I bring a cursor over here and I kind of scroll down here, you'll see the cursor is going to pop up. You probably don't want the cursor to show up in your screen capture. So you might head over here and uncheck the Show Cursor box. Now if I drag my cursor over to the comment section and I'm using it to scroll, I'm actually right there, but you can't see my mouse anymore, which makes it very easy to scroll through your Facebook comments and not show your mouse cursor, which looks a little awkward, to be honest. Next, let's look at what it looks like on a background. So you probably want to get off the black background. If you do have a black background, that's great. If you don't, then you probably need to do some additional cropping, some additional sort of touch-up work to make it look a little better. So you can see there we want to just probably get rid of all the black border stuff. And I'm going to do that one. We're going to the right as well. And maybe we'll just focus in right there. And then the last thing you probably want to do is make it pop off the background. That can really add a nice thing. So you might add a matte or something like that. So something like a drop shadow can look really nice. Now the comments appear sort of in 3D. I can scroll through them. They look nice. I can put them wherever I want. If I want to make them smaller or larger, I can do that, right? So that is the trick to bringing in your Facebook comments. Now let's look at bringing in, say, your Periscope comments, and we'll finish up with Twitter. I'm sorry. Getting platform overload here. We were kind of talking about that with Jonathan. Okay, so I'm going to bring in my Periscope comments. Now, this one I haven't tried before, so it's going to be a little fun, and we're going to experiment, and there really aren't that many comments appearing anyway, but I'm going to show you the way I would try to do it right now, and if you guys have a better way, or if you know of a better way to do it, please let me know. But we're going to start with this. Fortunately, Periscope, Twitter, a lot of that's coming together, I think, and eventually the Twitter API in which we pull in Twitter comments hopefully may work also for any Periscope, people watching on Periscope, since they own it. It's the same, company. So what we're going to do is we're going to capture, as I mentioned here, I have my phone. It's watching the Periscope feed. I can put that a little closer. It's going to be out of focus, but there it is. And so I want to bring in a screen capture of my phone. So here we are. I have on Mac, it's super easy. Apple makes it easy to bring in a lightning cable right into the Mac, and then I can capture that live. For those of you who don't have a Mac, then you'll probably want to or you don't have an iPhone, but you have an Android and you have a Mac computer, whatever it is. For those of you who don't have both an iPhone and a Mac that you're doing this on, and you may need to buy a third-party screen projector app or reflector app. There's one called Reflector that allows your mobile device screen to appear on your desktop. And then you would do the same thing that we just showed you with Facebook comments. You would screen capture that Reflector, that third-party app that's making the content of your screen appear on the content of your mobile device appear on your screen. All right, so we are going to go in here. We're going to choose under capture devices. The iPhone just pops up, and it should just come in as a shot, and there it is. And at this point, that's all there is to it, really. I just do the same method I just did before. We're going to do some cropping. Right here, I'm going to crop the top, right down, right through the comments there. And next, I'm going to, it looks like iTunes and the iPhone want to work together. That's okay. And now, Periscope users, here's your chance. Say something, leave a comment. If you're one of the 7 live viewers, you should leave a comment right there. And I could do the same thing. We can use a drop shadow just to make it a little bit nicer. We could try some of the other mats like rounded, or we can even do hearts, although that cuts off a lot, right? So we're going to go back to drop shadow. And there you go. Hey from Daytona. There it is. So you're bringing in live comments. Thank you, Exilis. That was great. If you want to leave other comments, feel free. And we are going to basically leave it right there. You can bring in comments right there. The drop shadow does crop a little. That's the one downside. So if you really are using your full screen, you may need to just leave it with no mat, just so you can get everything there. So there. Ace Ellis there. Thank you, Ace. So nice job there. So if you want to bring in comments, and now obviously if there was a whole comment storm, so if Ace and all of his friends were leaving comments live like that, then it would fill up that space that we have here. So you can see it's a great way to bring in live comments, and I can even see how many viewers. I'm displaying that right there. And I'm not having the redundancy of also having, say, the live stream. Make sense? So that's how you would bring in comments. You basically, if you have an iPhone and a Mac, you can just plug it in and bring it in as a capture source, a live capture source right from the phone via the lightning cable. If you are on an Android or a PC, then just use a third-party app, reflect the screen on, and use Wirecast's very good screen capture tool to do it that way. Okay, last but not least, Twitter comments. Nice job, Ian David Vaughn. So thanks for the comment there. We're going to bring on now Twitter. So let's jump in here. Wirecast actually already has native integration. You are on TV. You are on TV. All right, so we're going to bring in the Twitter. We're going to set that up. So the first thing you want to do is Wirecast has this menu bar item called Twitter. And just go down to the settings, and you're going to configure it to be with your username. Once you've logged into your Twitter account, you then have the option to either choose the home timeline, you can choose user timeline, you can choose favorites if you tweeted favorites and so forth, and finally you can also choose a search. And in this case, I'm going to choose the hashtag WirecastLive string. So if you tweet at me now, just like our friends on the Periscope feed, I will be able to display these comments live on the screen. So tweet now if you are watching, if you have Twitter handy or open, tweet Wirecast Live. And the next thing we're going to do is I've actually already added it here, but we're going to do it one more time. We go back to the Twitter menu, and you'll see this quick button, the second option down, create shot. So we're just going to create a shot. That's going to auto-populate a Twitter shot right here on the screen. And if we look at it, its settings, you'll see it has social media, message, social media, blah, blah, blah. There are no tweets that I'm displaying yet. That doesn't mean there aren't any to display. It just means I haven't picked any to send onto this template. So I'm going to go back for the third option. So you really are starting at the bottom. You move up, or you can do this in any order, but you really need to start with the settings. You have to create a shot at some point. The next thing you need to do is go check your message feed. This is a window in Wirecast that's going to pull up all the results based on that search string. So hashtag WirecastLive, any of them that are being tweeted at, we've got them right here. So we did tweet one out personally. We use the hashtag WirecastLive. So we have our own tweet here from Wirecast. We also have one from Dominic Brazzi this morning saying he was watching the webinar, it looks like, this morning. So we can say, great webinar, and we can display that. The minute I select it on the left here, it pops up right in the template. So Wirecast sends that there. This is how you select one tweet at a time to sort of go live, right? Makes sense? Anytime you select it, you're hand-picking what you want to go. So you can have this window open on and off screen somewhere and just kind of keep an eye on the feed and select which messages you want to take as you take questions, right? So I'm going to also refresh the feed. I'm going to do, say, auto refresh every, say, 30 seconds. And then we can even quick refresh it right now, see if anybody's tweeted us. Hey, so there's Conius. Conius is saying, hi, Andrew, hashtag WirecastLive, so I hope you're watching. I am David Vaughn, and he's on TV again, Mom, so you're watching on both. So that's very nicely done. Thanks for doing that, David. Wes Woodland, good to see you, Wes. So you are also watching on Wirecast Live. So you guys, that's kind of it. That's a very easy way with a handy template. Let's say you want to change the font size. Let's say we want to take Wes's name here and make it a little larger. We can jump into we can make it, say, double it in size to 60. It's going to get a little trapped there by the boundaries of the box, so I can make the height and width different. I could say make the width is definitely fine. The height is not. We can make the height, say, 65. So that could be enough. There it is. We could even change the font. So if you want all of the, if you don't want Arial, you can choose a different one. And I'm going to say choose, we could do any of them. We can choose Alien League here. There we go. And I might need to highlight that real fast. Hold on. It is a little awkward because this demo machine is really that bad. So hopefully one of our Christmas wish, New Year's request was getting a higher quality demo machine so that it would just kind of keep up with what we do on this machine on a regular basis. And what's slowing it down here is actually not Wirecast. It's the fact that I have 2 or 3 open feeds that I'm watching, doing live captures with. I'm doing stream captures. So we've kind of started to overload this little guy. It's just a little Mac Mini. There it goes finally. It's finally working. So Wes, you're now in Alien font there. And then we could, of course, change the body of the content to a different system font. And I don't think I'm going to get too particular with that. But there are some quick, easy fonts here we could choose right in Wirecast. So we could, say, use the Impact font. That might be better for the title itself rather than, say, thing. But we can choose any of these: Courier, Lucida, Wingdings, so forth. And then we might want to change the size as well. So let's change that to, say, let's make it 50. All right, so now Wes Woodland saying, hello, Wirecast Live. We can even move it around a little bit. And now if I go choose, say, a different message from my message feed, and so refresh here, we go back and choose David's. And there is David's and Conius and so forth. So they're each adapting as needed. Now, one of the things I was experimenting before the show was going a little different with it, and I tried, well, what if I can put it in the sort of the text boxes with the cool Twitter sort of backdrop, which is fine, but I could also experiment with some of the other cool stuff that you can do with Wirecast text capabilities, and specifically the new crawling and scrolling features. So what I did here was I actually created a scroll where I basically created the tweet with all of it going on a scrolling bar, and I changed the font, I put a drop shadow on it, and so forth. So now you can see things scroll right by, and you can even, if you wanted, select a rotation so that, say, if we want more than one to go live at a time, we can take Wes's live, we can let that go by. If you don't want to sit here and necessarily have to select each one, that's no problem, but you may want to change them as they go off the screen. So now we could go back to Connius's and take that one live and so forth. Where it gets kind of cool is if you want to select a batch of them at any one time and just have them rotate. They may disappear when they're on the screen because there's a timer on it, and so if they're still on screen, the timer doesn't know if they're on screen or not. It just takes the next one when the time limit's up. So, but you can choose to rotate the tweets every so many seconds. So let's check this box, rotate every 20 seconds, whatever, and now we can select boom, 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 all of your tweets that you recently did. And then, depending on how long they are and how long it takes them to get on the screen, every 20 seconds, the next one will go, and then the next one will go. So it's almost like having a Twitter newsfeed a little bit, or a Twitter crawler at the bottom of your screen. So pretty cool stuff. All right, you guys, that is it. And if you're curious on how I did that, you should check out some of the tutorials that we've talked about here on the left. But, you choose the scroll speed. If it's going too slow or too fast, you can slow it down. I chose the scroll, and then I chose right to left, but we could make it go left to right. We can reverse it. We can even make it go bottom to top, right? So it's really up to you. You choose the speed, auto reverse, and so forth. And then of course there's all the font stuff. And then nice thing at the bottom here is you can choose what you can choose drop shadow for the text. You can choose the color for the text. You can even choose to do, say, like a gradient for the text. So if you want your tweets to have a gradient of colors in the font, hold on, that's the background. I think there's a way to do it in the text itself. Maybe I'm off on that. Maybe it's just the backdrop. Okay. Yes, that seems to be the case. So if we were going to change the backdrop, rather than have it be transparent, we could change the backdrop to a solid color and so forth. There's a lot of options for anybody who's curious on how to do that. One way to customize your own text boxes real quick is you need to copy and paste this string into your text box. So there's the money sign, and then social media name in curly braces, and then I just added this colon so that it would kind of say the person's name, and then it would have a colon, and then it would have their message. And so if I want those to say go from left to right, right to left. And you'll see here that with the next comment, you can see, there we go. So I am David Vaughn. There's the colon, and then it says the social media message, right? And keep in mind, the one problem with this is that you cannot individually choose a different color or font in the same text box and have them be recognized separately. You choose one for all of it. So that's the one downside to, say, the crawler method. You can't have names be a different color or font than everything else. Characters can't be selected individually and given their own colors. But there it is, the social media name, the colon, followed by the social media message. All right, you guys, that is our show for today. I hope that helped. If you did have questions about anything I showed you, please tweet at us. Happy to answer them. And we are going to wrap up for today. It's been a great show. I hope this was helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. And please subscribe if you are watching on Periscope. If you learned on Twitter, you can hit the subscribe button. You can watch any of the past episodes on YouTube. And then finally, you can join us live every Thursday at 2:30 p.m. Pacific time for Wirecast Live. Again, we are on a break next week because I will be in Florida, but we will resume after that. And if I can, I will try to sneak away from the trade show and do a little broadcast or something around the normal time if possible. So maybe it'll be a bonus. All right, you guys, thanks for watching. I really had a great time with you as usual, and I enjoyed meeting and interviewing Jonathan Tripp. If you guys have suggestions for other guests that we should have on the show, please let us know. Always booking new people for 2017. And so we'd like to get people that you'd like to see or topics that you want covered in the show lineup. Thanks so much, and I will see you next time on Wirecast Live.